And now I'm going to come back to something that's done currently. And this is very real, very practical. I'm also moving away from secondary back to tertiary. These are college-level courses. But I want to talk about the Online Learning Initiative, OLI, at Carnegie Mellon University. This has been supported heavily with funds from the Hewlett Foundation in the United States. And I think it has some important features that help us see where we can go in the future. And one of the reasons I think it's so powerful is they've done something that you're actually doing here at Hong Kong University as well, which is to combine the efforts of the faculty who know the subject areas, engineering, statistics, biology, with efforts of instructional developers who know how to create online interfaces, and also with learning researchers who know how to develop assessments and interpret assessment data. And I think the combination of the different kinds of expertise doing this is really important for what they've been able to do. So these 12 courses, some of them are virtual laboratories. This is from chemistry, and students can manipulate molecular structures, look at them from different angles. This is, they're putting a test tube with something on a burner, and they're taking measurements and tracking them over time. So like things we saw yesterday, where you're interacting with this interface, almost as you would in a real laboratory, except you won't be able to spill any chemicals. Others are more similar to intelligent tutoring systems with designed exercises. This is in mathematics, and we don't have time to really read it. This one's in statistics. But these are perhaps less, certainly less exciting to look at than River City, but they have really strong content, and they do have learner choices. This is data on, I think, Best Actress votes. It looks like they were thinking of the Oscars or something. And if you wanted to see the raw data that went into this box plot, you could click here. You can repeat things. You're manipulating the data, and you get feedback from the intelligent system, which is trying to diagnose your understanding and giving you a hint to help you move forward. So that's tailored to the student. The important thing here that is exciting about what they're doing is they're using student learning data in feedback loops with the idea not that you just take the course and put it online, but that you take a course, you develop online instruction, you try it out, you use the student learning data to revise and improve the course. So the student learning data first gets used by the student. The student is asking, how am I doing? Do I understand this material? The student learning data is also used by the instructor, who is asking, particularly in a blended course, and I'll show this, do my students understand these concepts? Which ones are hard? Which ones did I not get across? It's also used by the course design people. How should we change this course before we offer it the next time? And finally, the science of learning people. What have we learned about the nature of learning based on all the data we have from all of these courses? They use a variety of different techniques to get formative assessment data from this system. And the thing I want to stress about this is that the students are not taking tests that count toward their grade. This is information to help them and to help the instructor understand how well things are understood. So you look at what the student is doing with the simulation, just as we did in River City. And also they have probes that come up to try to get at student understanding of how the simulation works as the student is working with it. So for example, that chemistry lab. You also have, there are quizzes in here, but they're called Did I Get This quizzes. And it does not count toward the student's grade. And the students use them to know whether I need to go back and go over the material again, or I should keep going. So it's to empower the students that these quizzes are inserted in various places. They also use some of the course's short essay questions. So particularly if students are trying to build new knowledge by combining concepts, different concepts or concepts from different disciplines, they find that having them do some writing online is useful. Oops, and then there's a simple thing. It's called a Muddiest Point request. And so as the student is doing the instruction, a prompt comes up every now and then that says, okay, you've just finished whatever, your hour online. What was the most confusing thing? Just tell us what you didn't understand. And now, instead of just one student saying, Professor, I did not understand, every student taking the class is saying what the muddiest point was. And the instructor finds this out, the course developer finds this out. And what do we do about it? Well, this is the nice part, I think. So each student in these blended courses is taking the online instruction, is doing that on their own time in their dorm room or wherever, including those formative assessments. The data then get aggregated by the system. And this is hard to read. This is from a statistics class. They call it a dashboard. And these are different concepts here in what they call causal theories. And you can see this concept right here, that's the one. Each bar is the percentage of students who appear to understand it based on what they did online. This is the most trouble in causal theories. And this is statistical evidence. And look at this. So this is clearly a problem, whatever this concept is right here. This system aggregates this information, and the instructor can look at that dashboard wherever. So here we have, you see the copy and the dashboard. All right, so the instructor has this information before the class. So the instructor can go in and instead of doing a canned lecture, I give this lecture because I always give this lecture on the third Wednesday of this course, the instructor can really focus in on those muddiest points and explain them in a different way and take student questions to try to get at it. So it's this blending of online and face-to-face instruction, I think, with the formative feedback that is really a powerful combination. Now, they have done some research on some of these courses. It's just starting to be published. This was actually published too late to get in our meta-analysis. But they did a nice study of a statistics course where they randomly assigned students to be in the experimental or the control group. Everyone took the same examination at the end. And the online group, in this case, finished the course in half the time and had, in fact, better outcomes on the final examination than this whole semester group. They did do a smart thing. They went back several months later and tested longer-term retention and found out there was no difference longer term. So that's a nice design feature of this study, and it's good to make sure that it's not just initial learning but retained learning. But what they did find was that in half the time, students could achieve the same level of long-term retention. They've also replicated this in a community college setting and at other universities, and more of this research is starting to come out. And I think this is very important for us to establish an empirical base for really having soundly designed online instruction. Now, we're just at the beginning of doing that. I think we're going to see research explode in online instruction and assessment over the next decade. But if I were pressed, based on the research I looked at, to come up with some principles for learning design that I think are defensible based on research, I would come up with these.